Hi all, I just came from the movie Monumental with Kirk Cameron. It was a great movie. I enjoyed the live interviews with Lady King. There was also Glenn Beck, which was great to see, and Kirk Cameron's grandfather, who was in World War II. That was very neat to see all those instrumental people. What I wanted to encourage you to do is go see the movie Monumental, which will hopefully be opening in your area soon, and also share a few thoughts that I had on being an American. Most of you know I was adopted from Romania in '91, and being an American is something very special to me. I've been here since I was 6 weeks old, and May 11th I'll turn 21, and in June I'll be here for 21 years. So being an American is definitely something I'm very, very proud of. I hold my freedom very dearly to me, and also being a Christian is very important to me as well. And I think those two go hand in hand. Something that was in the movie Monumental was Christianity produces liberty, which produces prosperity. You can't have liberty, you can't have freedom in America, you can't have political freedom, religious freedom without having Christianity. You can't have liberty without having that Christian foundation. And liberty leads to prosperity in your homes, economically, politically. And so that was a big thing in the movie as well. Something that's not really taught in the schools is the Declaration of Independence. Kids do learn about it, but they don't learn that what is probably the most important line, I think, in the Declaration of Independence is the very last line is the signers wrote, "We mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." These men gave up their homes, their families, their wealth. Most of them had their families killed. Most of them had their wealth that they had worked all their lives for taken away from them. Their whole lives were basically stripped. So their families, their children, their children's children, their great-great-grandchildren, grandchildren could live in a free country. And so they were willing to give up their lives for this. And I think it's a question we have to ask ourselves. Are we willing to give up our lives so that we can stay in a free country? Thomas Jefferson said, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance." And freedom is not free. It came with a price. And that price is the men who gave their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor so that we could live in a free nation. And the men and women who are still fighting so we can live in a free country. I think we really need to remember that as individuals, as families, as churches, and communities, and as a nation. We need to remember that freedom is not free. It has a price. And these men and women have paid the price. And are we willing to pay the price for freedom? John Adams said, "I must study politics and war so that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. My sons ought to study mathematics and philosophy, geography, natural history, naval architecture, navigation, commerce, and agriculture in order to give their children a right to study painting, poetry, music, architecture, statuary, tapestry, and porcelain." John Adams is saying that he was willing to study politics, the workings of politics, war, so that his children could have the liberty, the freedom to choose and study whatever they wanted to, and so that when his children studied, that his grandchildren would be able to study the arts, the finer things in life. So we, as a country, need to come together and study how our forefathers came together and wrote the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, how they gave their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, so that we might study music and poetry. We need to go back to our history books and learn how our country was founded and why our country was founded, and it wasn't just so the Pilgrims could escape a tyrant, King James, but it was also to further, which is in the Mayflower Compact, they came to America to further the kingdom of Christ. And you never hear that anymore. And so we need to learn and study politics and war so that our children can learn music and poetry, and so that they can further study the kingdom of Christ. Another quote that I love is, "All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." That's by Edmund Burke. I think if we just sit back and let evil men and women, take over our country and say that we are not founded upon Christian morals is wrong. They're in the wrong, but we are also in the wrong if we don't stand up and say, stop. Our country was founded upon Christian ideals. The men who signed the Constitution and who wrote the Declaration of Independence were Christian men. Most of them, as David Barton has researched, had seminary degrees. So for people to say that America is not founded upon Christian morals and our documents were not written by Christian men, they need to look up their history. And that's something as a nation, as families, as parents should teach their children the importance of our documents, our founding documents, and the importance of our founding fathers. And one more thing that I have on my blog is, I want to close with a quote by George Washington. "It is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God and the Bible." We can't have a nation that strays from God. It's just impossible. It's impossible. You can see in history where other nations that did not have a foundation based on Christian principles, they just self-destructed. And I think if America doesn't wake up, if our politicians don't wake up, if our churches don't wake up, and our community leaders don't wake up, and especially, this is what the whole film Monumental is about, families waking up. If fathers don't open their eyes and see where our country is headed, America will not exist. So the whole reason for Monumental that I got out of it was that parents need to teach your children what our founding fathers believed in and wanted for our country, And not just our founding fathers, you go all the way back to the Pilgrims and what they sacrificed um, to come to a free country so they could have religious freedom and political freedom as well. So I think the whole film, Monumental, is about fathers leading their families, teaching their children the principles of America. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. I work in retail, as most of you know. I'm encouraging everyone to go see it. Hopefully I can get my coworkers to go see it. I want to go see it again, at least one more time, if not more. So it's a great film, and Kirk Cameron did a great job. And hopefully this will open the eyes of America.